Okay, welcome to Oddly Creative. This is typically a show about creatives and rappers, singers, dancers, tattoo artists, whatever. But today we're gonna have a special show. We have two therapists because as a creative, typically you might be a little, loopy sometimes. Creatives are stressed out or they might have self-esteem issues you might not know. So my guest today is Jaylene, Arnett, and Justin Hornsby. Thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
All right, so what got you into therapy, starting with Jaylene?
Yeah. I guess I've always had a passion for just helping people. I know that mental health has always been seen as a stigma, and so that's been something that I have worked very hard to try and change. And so when I was in undergrad at Washington State University, I actually started as an interior design major. Found out that that was not exactly what I wanted to do. It's not my vibe.
Why was that not the thing?
It was really hard, and I do really like drawing, but it kind of took the fun out of it for me. And so I took a psychology class just because I've always been interested in just studying human behavior, studying just human science as a whole, and I was just so drawn to it. And so I started taking more and more psychology classes and looking more into what a career in psychology might look like, and that's kind of what brought me here.
Justin?
Yeah, so for me, I was a former athlete. So I played football at Indiana State. So for me, from high school up to college, I battled some injuries and stuff like that. So originally, I'm like Jay, I wanted to be a kinesiology major, so I wanted to be a physical trainer. Therapy was the last thing on my mind. And it wasn't until I started, I had some surgeries, through college with knee injuries where, I started battling some things, and now that I'm in the field, I know, I had some depressive symptoms and I dealt with some anxiety. And then I realized, sports psychology and being in psychology is where people like us are needed, because a lot of athletes and the stigma behind mental health, we talk about, the stigma behind mental health, athletics, it's still there. And, being able to talk about that.
The stigma behind mental health, one thing that made me eager to do this is because everybody in here is black. And I've always had a therapist. For some strange reason, I've always found like a peace in having somebody to go talk to who wasn't gonna have like an opinion. So like, you call your cousin, they all vested in you, and they're like, what are you doing? and that it's not fun. Or if I talk to my mother, she's all taking everything personally, internalizing it, and you can't get any results. I notice when I see a therapist, I always come up with the answer. Do you guys have any problem finding your own kind to come seek therapy, or do you promote it to us? Either whoever wants to answer.
I think that there are definitely some challenges for sure in getting just people of color to come seek therapy. And I think that is because there is still that mental health stigma that is just so embedded in just cultures across the board. But I think that now, especially after just COVID hit everybody, I think that people are starting to really take mental health more seriously, especially people in the Black community. And so I've seen it progress, and I think that it will continue progressing. I haven't had difficulty actually seeing patients here at Saddle Black who are Black, which is great.
Which is like 4.
Yeah, it is, but it's something, and so I think that's really great. Like, I personally really like working with the Black community or any other persons of color just because of that reason of it being so embedded in our culture that, oh, you shouldn't seek help. It's figure it out, right? Just be stronger. Just if you're depressed, just stop being depressed. And, like science and research has showed us that's not how it works.
Definitely
right?
doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah. Honestly, I see it a lot, and I've always seen it a lot. I think it's being people of color, it's always looked at as in like mental health was never a thing. It's just like if you feeling sad, like go find something to make you happy. Go, you know, be mentally tough. You know, stop crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. So it's always, you know what I mean? So it was never a thing that we talked about. So it's nice, we see the stigma all the time. So I think that's kind of what drove people like me and Jay to this field, is because the fact is we can advocate for it, and we're examples for people about how important mental health is.
Do you notice it more with black people or all ethnic backgrounds, like Mexicans and whoever else? Because I know, I don't want to make this a race thing, but I know white people go get therapy. They go get psychiatrists and therapy and pills and whatever else they need.
Yeah.
And not so much with other groups. Like, have you noticed it with other groups that that their approach is the same as ours, where they're not taking advantage of resources?
Yeah, I feel like we do see it a lot. I feel like we do see like it spaced out between different populations, and a lot of it has to do with access. A lot of the people from, you know, a lot of these minority communities have lower, you know, economic statuses, and maybe aren't coming from places where they have money to actually see these, you know, see the psychiatrists and see the psychologists. So we are seeing it a lot in the black community as well, because you know, certain races are disproportionately, you know, with funds and stuff like that. But yeah, we are seeing it in the black community, but we are seeing it kind of across the board, because some families, as we know, in the black community do have more money and more affluent, and we have a lot. We see a lot that aren't, and it's, you know, you see it on all sides of the coin. Unfortunately.
So does doing this kind of work affect you personally in any type of way? Like your personal relationships, do you like psychoanalyze people like all the time?
You know, it's funny because everybody always asks me that question when they find out that I am in this field. They're like, oh, well, what do you think about me? You must be just analyzing me. For me, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that it has helped me just gain awareness of how common mental health is and how it's just everywhere. And I think it has helped me kind of navigate relationships in a more positive way, because we're learning just in classes and from experience, like, you know, better ways to communicate maybe with your partner, or better ways to cope with some of these sad feelings, how to better regulate your emotions when you feel them getting heightened. So I think that for me personally, like, I'm learning a lot that I can apply to myself and apply to other people around me as well.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Like, I feel like we learn a lot that allows us to take it home. But you do have some clients that you talk to and you really enjoy, you know, you enjoy talking to them, and they have some hard stories, and you might have some relatability there, where it's like, you know, like being a black therapist and that person growing up from that same background that you come from, and a lot of times that actually helps in therapy, because like I get it, I know what you've dealt with, and sometimes it's like, man, I've never experienced that trauma, and you sometimes do carry that home with you a little bit, you know.
Definitely.
The more people that you deal with across all backgrounds, all races, do you notice that we're more similar than we are different as a people? Like outside of like your diet, like some people eat a lot of rice, some people eat a lot of chicken, but overall, do you notice that we're all fighting the same type of fight in life?
100%.
Definitely.
I think one of the things that we always talk about is just in therapy, a lot of times we do what we call normalizing. And it's just normalizing. I think a lot of us deal with so many issues and so many things that we get caught up in our own lives, that we're the only person going through it. And then, but little do you know, the person that you probably maybe don't talk to, or maybe that person doesn't share too much, is going through the same thing. You have no idea. So it's really, a lot of it is normalizing, like, hey, this happens. I know it may feel like you're the only one, but this happens
across the board.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yellow, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, right?
Exactly, yep.
Being that you guys work in a university, since COVID happened, do you notice like younger people are a little different? Because I'm older. So when COVID came, I was like, ooh, no traffic. Like, I was kind of happy. Yeah, like, oh, this is dope at first. But then I started to crack. I was like, oh my God, like, Jesus Christ. Like, it it got extremely bad, I called my mom. I said, send me my rifle. I might have to kill a rabbit. Like, lift up your mic a little, Justin, because that one is, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But do you notice that socially they might be a little more awkward than people in the past? Not to dog them or call them awkward or anything. But do you think that 2 years affected the newer generation of children?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing that I have seen with clients, and I'm sure you could say similarly too, is that there's so many people coming in with social anxiety, especially younger kids who lost those 2 to 3 years of their routine, of their consistency. And that just the research shows how that plays a role in just your development, right? And how you're able to communicate with other people and maintain those relationships. And so I think for the younger generation, like there is a lot of anxiety there because they lost that consistency.
Do you feel like here's how I looked at it before I asked that question. I looked at it like if you were 16 and you turned 18 during that period, you're still 16.
Yeah.
You lost.
You lost some years off your life.
Didn't,
a little bit.
Like, I have to say, like, you ain't go to no prom, you ain't walk across no stage, you ain't kiss no girl, like, you know, vice versa. Like, the girl ain't chase the boy, you ain't go to the mall, like, all those things that are normal. And do you feel like society is already kind of making people a little more awkward with technology?
Yeah.
You think technology's a problem?
I wouldn't say it's a problem. I think just like everything, it's how you use it. But I do see the way technology can inhibit, because same thing with COVID, like we talked about with COVID. People are behind screens communicating, and it's a different type of communication. Text message communication, it's a huge difference in the way you communicate. So if I communicate with you face to face, and I'm like, Jamal, yo, this and that, and we're having this conversation, on computer, it might be a little different, where it's like I can't understand maybe the tone that you're saying certain things, or you're like, Justin, like we gotta talk.
Oh, and things get lost in communication all the time.
Exactly.
Oh boy, I don't like text messaging. I swear, because I feel like it's for like, send me the directions or what's the recipe, or something like that. Not to have a full-fledged conversation. Sheesh. So yeah, sorry people, I'm nervous today because they psychoanalyzing me. No. How important is like human connection, like to be around somebody, to talk to somebody, to touch people, to hug people. Like how is taking that away in technology, kind of moving it to the side? How is that affecting us, you think?
Yeah, I think human connection is really important, and I think that something that we learn in this field too is about the idea of attachment, right? Attachment starts when you are born and with your personal caregiver, and so it just kind of like emulates the importance of the connection between the people who you are meant to be close to and how it impacts you later in life. And so I think that with COVID and with people needing to socially isolate from family, from friends, and from just the normalcy that they used to have, I think it really impacted people negatively. And then because of that, it makes it even harder for them to start building new connections. It makes them more anxious to do so.
Because as I walk around here, everybody's head is down. Even if they're not in their phone, they're just not trying to look at you. And if you speak, it's almost like they're shocked. Or like, oh, snap. Like, you said hi. Hi. Like, and I don't get it. So, are you guys ever thinking about starting your own practice doing this? Being that this is Out of Creative, I still want to talk about creating something. You ever think about doing this on your own, starting your own therapy I don't even know what to
Yeah.
call it.
Practice.
Practice.
Yeah, for me personally, I definitely, that is the goal in years and years down the road, because I mean, Justin and I still have a pretty long journey to go. But I definitely would like to have my own practice, be able to build my own clientele, and kind of have that business aspect to it as well. I think that's just really incredible that people are able to do that, and so one day.
Again, Justin, like, how long is the schooling to do what you guys do?
Man, it's long. It's real long. So you start off with, basically, it's a 5-year program. So just the basis is you start a 5-year program. So you're doing clinical rotation. So for us, you know, like, we've been at a site before. We might do a site at Saddleback. We're moving on to sites next year. Then you do your internship. So that's the full 40 hours a week. You'll match. You basically will interview at places across the country. And then wherever you match to, you're there for the entire year doing therapy, doing admin work, doing outreach. You're doing the whole 9. And then you get that degree. Then you go ahead, you do some postdocs. So then you're doing another. You go somewhere else. Sometimes people are lucky enough to stay where they first went for internship. And at that point, you go and get licensed. And that's the biggest thing about what our job and our profession is. You know, licensure is it's a long and grueling process. Yes. So that way, you know, when you are seeing a psychologist and you're seeing that therapist, you're getting somebody who's competent. You're not getting somebody who's just like, I just took a class and let's go.
I know this.
I got my certificate.
No.
It's a very long process, which, you know, I think for us, now that we're in it and we're almost done with it, it makes it that much more special when we talk about our profession. And it's because it's like, man, we put in a lot of work to get here and to get to that part. And I think it makes it better for us, and kind of gives us, I think it helps with the legitimacy of, like, trying to advocate for us, to the people, people of color, of like, hey, like, therapy is important, and we went through those stages and that growing process to give you the tools that we paid a lot of money for.
Right.
So, I know you hear, I work in behavioral health too. I'm a behavioral health technician, so I work with a lot of addicts.
Yeah. Yep.
And I get some phone calls sometimes, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, like, oh Jesus, let me just pray with you now, like, please." What do you do to maintain your mental health?
Yeah.
Being that people are bogging you down constantly with their problems, and I know I hear stuff is like, no way.
Yeah.
Really? I'll tell you something. This guy, he needs treatment. So he calls me. I'm not saying no names, HIPAA people, so it's just a story. He calls me and he says, my wife left me. I'm a single dad. I really need help. And my girlfriend, she was supposed to watch my son while I came and get help, but she slept with the neighbor's wife. No, she slept with the neighbor's husband. Now his wife is mad at me. I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And then you get call after call. You get grown men crying, oh, I just need help. So you have to do something to, like I like to run. I like to work out and things like that. Do you have any, because that's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if you care about people. It's like, I know why he's high. But what do you guys do for balance?
I could start. So the biggest thing for me and for everybody who is in a program like this is because we're hearing so many intense things every single day, it is important for us to have our own personal therapy. And so that is first and foremost, like the best thing for me is being able to take what I am feeling to another licensed professional. And it's really nice because they have been through the same process that we have. And so there's that stronger connection with them. And then for me, also being in a program like this, it's just so important to just take care of myself and take care of my body. So whenever I can get sleep, I just try and get sleep. That's really big for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And then just engaging in hobbies, things that I like to do, like reading novels that aren't really associated with my field, watching TV and not feeling guilty see that I'm watching TV instead of working on something that maybe due in a few weeks, you know? So, yeah.
So, you guys have to take this home with you sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you got to, like, continue to write notes and things like that at the house.
Sometimes, yeah, we do. Sometimes it's, you try to, I think one of the things that it's like modeling healthy behavior and boundaries. And that's what we try to model is you don't want to, a lot of times you don't want to take work home with you. And you do want to try to finish. But sometimes your last client of the day might have the heaviest story. And you can try to shake it and you can try to be like, I'm just going to turn. One thing we know about mental health and just people and human behavior, you can't just turn it off. It's like, I'm dealing with depression. I'm just going to turn it off for today because I don't want to have it. It's something you can just turn off. Right. So sometimes, you are carrying it home. And that's why the importance of self-care and having to really have that.
Those things come in waves. Because you could be really up. Because I get depressed too. Like, and today could be like a great day. But towards the end of the day, maybe when I'm a little tired or I get hungry, depression could just kick in.
Exactly.
You don't even know why. You be like, damn, I was having a great day. Like,
what
happened? Like,
what happened?
Let me call my cousin.
Your cousin's sick of you.
What advice do you have for somebody who all right, somebody like me? What could I tell somebody to encourage them to go get therapy? Like, what, without making them feel like I think they're crazy?
Yeah.
You know?
A lot of times it's just, honestly, because again, you can't make somebody do something that they don't want to do. But a lot of things you can tell them is, like, I think one of the first things that people think what therapy is you going in, laying on the couch, and you just basically, the therapist's job is just to tell you what to do and tell you how to live your life. That's not what it is. And a lot of times it's having to change that, just change the picture of what, because people think, a lot of us, I do this all the time with my clients, I'm like, have you been to therapy before? And they'll be like, no. And I'm like, so what do you think what's going to happen today? And they're like, well, basically I'm going to tell you my problem and then you're going to tell me how to fix it. And then I'm good for, however long I need. But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's a conversation. And a lot of times you're the professional and like you or the client is the professional in your world. Sometimes you just need that extra of, okay, if you tell me like, yeah, everybody's crazy. And I'm like, well, tell me about your day. And
it's a total like,
exactly.
It's not an overnight thing. Sometimes you be having that that's why there's so many sessions in therapy, because you can have a problem and what I've learned from having a therapist is that sometimes they structure questions to have you question yourself. And then before long you be like, hold up. That was it. I got it. It took 7 months. I figured it out. This is it. Damn. Yo, this has been my most difficult interview because usually it's like
you're good.
Yeah,
you got
great.
You're good.
This is like fun stuff. Typically, now I'm talking about like medication,
all the seriousness, and.
Let me ask you a question. What do you do for self-care? What's your what do you usually do for self-care?
I make movies. I make movies.
Okay.
I try not to think about work when I'm not there at all. Even though I get emails like all through the night because it's behavioral health and this place is open 24/7.
That's right.
I don't know. I like to go to the thrift store and look for like camera lenses and stuff like that. I like to take naps at the beach.
Oh, that's
like I like to roll down the windows and park as close as I can to the sand and the water and just let it and go to sleep. And I don't know. I've tried to learn not to take on anybody else's stuff. Like if I had a friend who was hanging out with me and he kept calling his girlfriend and kept arguing. And I told him, you gotta go. Like you must leave because I just don't want that. Like get that energy out of here. Like do that on your own time. Don't do it while you around me because you sucking me into your yuck.
I think the thing I love about that is I think a lot of people have the hard time to decide or just to figure out when to set boundaries. And that's just setting. It's like, I don't want to be mean, but you're just setting a healthy boundary.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear you to F you, and I don't just stop calling her. Like, get rid of her.
That ruins your day.
Yeah, it's on me. I got another one. Relationships. You guys ever do like couples?
Yes.
How is that?
I personally like couples. I don't know how you feel, Jay.
I have never had a couple yet. So
Really?
we've had the training for it, but I have never had couples. I know you did though. Yeah.
I like couples because, well, okay, there's two sides of the coin with everything, but couples are fun because typically when you might have a client come in for if you do individual, you have one person and maybe they're talking about their spouse or they're maybe saying like, this is the issues at home, this is what's happening. But for couples, the other person with the issue is right here, or the person that, the issue's right there, and you can resolve it together, and you can do things together instead of being like, hey, this happened at home, and you're trying to work with one person, and that person may not change because they're not in therapy, but I'm working with you, versus in couples, you could do it together, and they're both right here, and let's try to resolve this together.
Do you think a new relationship, and you want to go far with this relationship, do you think that relationship should seek therapy before they go really, really deep? Just let's say it's not a problematic relationship. Let's say it's a cool relationship, and like they really like each other, and this could be something that goes on. Do you think they should seek therapy via the church or a registered therapist or something like that because of just the preventative maintenance, for lack of a better word?
In my personal opinion, I think that it could definitely be helpful, because I think the goal with couples therapy is that you want to seek a therapist before you are both in the hole. You want to seek the therapist to work on your communication patterns before it gets to the point where you're both just like, oh, this is our last option, and if it doesn't work, then we're done.
A lot of times it's like that, where they come in and I'm like, all right, fix us, and it's like,
whoa, we have like years to backtrack. So I think if there is a relationship and these two individuals are planning to get really serious, I definitely think it could be helpful for sure.
I'm happy I brought up like relationships. Why do you think relationships, like, what is it, like 50-something% of relationships
now, but
don't,
it's been pretty high.
I think it's like 51% of relationships are gonna end very short. I heard recently that like in a dating relationship, a long-term relationship is now like 6 months.
Wow.
Why is that? Y'all are therapists. Y'all supposed to know.
I do know. I read this the other day, that out of that percentage, there is a very big percentage. I want to say like 25% of that percentage results in divorce because there is some form of like family or domestic violence that takes place. And so I think like from us, like what we can do is raise awareness of how common that is. The other percentage, I couldn't tell you.
But a lot, and I think every relationship is different. And like one of the things that we commonly see when relationships, when we're dealing with couples or just dealing with people in a relationship, is just communication. Think about it. We were talking about communication earlier. It's imagine two people that have lived very different lives, or maybe lived similar lives, but they've had very different experiences, interpretations of life.
Right.
Are now deciding I want to live together, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, or I want to spend so much more time with you. And then it's like, okay, but I don't want to communicate with you because you like gifts, and I'm like, I hate, it's like, or you want words of affirmation, but I'm used to give people gifts. And then I'm giving you gifts, and you're like, well, just tell me you like me.
What is it called?
It's
called like your love language.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of times we'll see couples come in, and it's just, they're very much in love, and they both are fighting for the relationship, but then you watch them communicate with each other. They're just kind of missing each other, and they're saying the same thing, but they just haven't learned to communicate in the language of their partner, in the relationship.
So when I keep hearing the word communication, no matter what we talk about, communication. What do you think that we lack in communication as not black people, white people, like just overall? Like, what are some of the things that as humans we could work on as far as just communicating effectively, period?
That's a hard one.
I could say number one, active listening.
Yeah, just being a listener.
I think everybody's so quick to say something, and instead of just sitting back and just listening and listening to understand. I think we're so quick to, I want to give you my opinion.
I got a response.
I got a response.
I got something for you.
You see people like eager,
they
ready
got
to.
things in the back of their
Soon as she finish, I don't even know what she gonna say, but I got what I'm gonna say because I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. Versus maybe sometimes, and I think we've gotten out of that. Personally, I feel like sometimes we've gotten out of that stage of like, two things can be right, or you have your opinion and I have my opinion, but we're still the best of friends and we're still cool.
Yeah.
Now it's like I have to change your mind. If you don't change my mind, if I don't change your mind, then we can't be friends. It's like, everybody lives different lives, so we're gonna have different thoughts and different experiences where we might interpret things differently, and it's just being able to understand. I can understand where Jay comes from. Jay understands where I come from.
Right.
But that doesn't make us any lesser than each other, as we do our jobs or just do anything, in life.
You think people give up on each other way too fast?
I think that's another really hard question. I think that people may not have the tools necessary to fix the relationship, and maybe they don't have the motivation to do so because things get so bad. And I know the common human thing is that when you hear any kind of criticism, you get defensive, you kind of put up this wall and you withdraw, right? And so I think that people lack tools in how they can better their relationships, and they resort to the first natural human response that they have.
Flee. Because nobody likes confrontation.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Unless,
nobody likes being criticized.
This is a personal thing. I don't mind being criticized because sometimes I have to tell my therapist, like, tell me. Like, like sometimes I want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
I mean your truth, because what do you think? Not because of like a self-esteem issue or I'm not aware of who I am, because I can't see me right now.
Definitely.
And sometimes I want to hear it now. I can either agree, but it allows me room to make adjustments if I feel they're necessary, because sometimes if it's not coming from malice, criticism is constructive.
And necessary.
Yeah, very necessary. Like, so I don't care about, and I'm from New York, so I don't care about confrontation. It's not necessarily confrontation. I would just think, in my life, straightforwardness will get you a lot further. With me, it's like me trying to get you guys for this interview. If I'd have asked you to do this interview and you would have told me, oh yeah, and then you didn't really want to do it, but you just kept pushing it off and you wouldn't just say no, I would not like you. But see, that's something I'm working on. I wouldn't take it personal. I would work on not taking it personal, because I would be like, yo, I don't like that. I just like somebody to say no. Just say no, and you ain't even really got, or you could say, I just don't want to do it. And I will like you. I will respect you as a person. Why do you think people are so apprehensive about being straightforward and blunt about how they feel about things? Do you ever, I gotta put this. Like, why are people like that? Why are people... Now I'm starting to ask y'all questions. Y'all can't answer. Where's he going? I can't say nothing. He's gonna get my license taken.
I think that's a good question though. I think why are people? Maybe the question is like, why are some people not as open to confrontation, or?
It's not even the confrontation part. It's about the transparent part. Like, why do you think people are not as transparent, and does that create more problems that would cause you to need therapy?
That's a good question.
I think a lot of that comes from, just like we talk about, like social anxiety in general. It's the fear. A lot of it is fear of being judged, and fear of, I could say like, I love staring at the sky, and I might not know what you're thinking. So you might be thinking like, Justin, what? Like, you're crazy for thinking that, but I don't know what you're thinking. So a lot of people will take that and be like, well, I don't want to say these things, or I don't want to say something that might make you think you don't like me, or I don't want you to not like me. So I'm gonna keep it very, crisp, clean. I'm gonna say just enough to get you to like me, and I'm not gonna go any further than that because, I want to be liked. That's some of the things that we see.
Are some things that people go to, are they age specific, or no matter what age you might just be as goofy as you could be 50 and goofy as a 17-year-old kid? Is that a thing? Like, or some of the problems that people have like more age specific?
I think that some of the things that we see can be more common in certain age groups, like especially working at on a college campus. You see anxiety probably a lot more common in like the 18 to 25 range because of just the academic stress, rather than maybe a 65-year-old, And so not to say that it can be generalized for everybody and for every population, but there are definitely some things that we see are more common for certain age groups.
How about people self-medicating? You deal with clients who self-medicate, and I know I have options for them. Go get help, if you can. But what do you guys have to say about people self-medicating?
That's I feel like that's a tough one because part of that is a little bit out of our scope. It depends when the client comes in and maybe says I've had clients come in that say I've used marijuana and I want to stop. Then it's okay, let's talk about what you're using as a coping mechanism. What are you using for? Is it causing dysfunction in your daily life? What is that? But at the same time, some people use it. Again, there's a different scope of it because if you're talking about certain medical things, that's more for a doctor.
Right.
So
no, I'm not talking about medical things. I'm just talking about I'm sorry, because I might be asking y'all questions that y'all really can't answer. Is that true? Like certain things, if I ask you a certain thing, you can't answer a certain type of way because you're a therapist?
I think kind of like any profession, there are certain things you may, because we do have certain things as a therapist, this is our scope of practice, where our job is to stay in our scope. If you start saying, people using this medication or psychiatry, that's not our scope.
I was just thinking that before you said it, that's a question for a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Because they prescribe and you guys don't prescribe.
We don't, exactly. So we have knowledge of what, certain medications, but we don't really try to stay away from that.
This is something I don't know. Is being a therapist like an entry-level psychiatrist? Can you say, now I want to be a psychiatrist? And, is it the prerequisite for becoming a psychiatrist possibly?
So typically they are two different things, but a psychologist can get their degree in psychopharmacology, so that can give them the license to actually prescribe.
Some states allow prescription with that degree.
Right. And then the psychiatry part is that the difference is that we are getting a doctoral degree for a PhD or a PsyD, and then a psychiatrist is getting the MD. So that is the primary difference, but working in certain settings, a psychologist and a psychiatrist may be working alongside with one another. So it's important for us to be knowledgeable in this area, even if we're not directly prescribing.
I got you. Because it's all in the same scope of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't say, listen, you need this for sleep and this and that.
Because you might have a client that's dealing with some severe mental issue, and you may suggest hey, maybe it's a good time to see a psychiatrist, maybe talk to them about getting on medication, come back, let's work on some things, and try to ease and maybe you check back in with your psychiatrist because you're feeling better from doing talk therapy. Right. So it's always good to have we have knowledge of kind of that basis as well, because that way we do work alongside them as well.
All right, I'm gonna ask some questions about here. I got one more question that's not about here. Please tell me, if you can, a time where somebody spazzed out on you. When somebody got upset because they felt like you weren't doing your job correctly. Because, like you said earlier, sometimes people think that, if I go to therapy, this happened and my dog ain't listening to me, how do I fix that? And you're supposed to be well, this is what you do. And since it's not like that, when have you ever been scared in one of your sessions or something like that because somebody was acting out? I can't tell.
That's kind of hard.
I know. I'm trying to think back too. I think I have had a few patients where maybe I'm a little bit more on edge because maybe I had somebody come in who has like severe anger issues, and they happen to maybe get really escalated in session, and so that might make me a little bit more on edge, which is just, you know, kind of like the natural human response. But I don't think I've ever been put in a situation where I have been scared or anything like that.
Have you ever, either one of you, had anybody question your ability to give them therapy based off of you being younger?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we see it a lot in older adults.
And I have had that in older clients, which is always interesting because, you know, like you try to, you know, cause they question it at first because it's like, you're a little young to be used to be doing this. You know, you hear that's the first thing you hear. It's like, you're a little young to be doing this. But it's funny because those end up being some of the clients who love you the most. Definitely. And they're excited to go to session and talk to you. So it's always interesting. But those are the relationships that, you know, it's going to take more time probably to build that rapport with that client, because they're probably sometimes can be doubting everything you're saying because they're like, how do you know this? Like, you're only in your 20s or you're only in your 30s. You don't know this, you know, and it's versus I have a lot more life experience. I'm 60 years old. I've had more life experience than you.
Life experience after a certain age is all same. I know it was a little disrespectful when I was younger, but after I got like my own crib, my own car, I had to pay my own bills, I had my own job. Like, if I wasn't related to you, I might not have respect for you because I felt like I'm doing the same thing. This is all the same thing. So you better talk to me correctly.
Yep.
Now I want to ask some things about campus here. If a kid here needs help, can you please tell him what he needs to do?
Yeah. So if there's somebody on campus who is just maybe even having a bad day, maybe failed an exam, or somebody passed away, and they just really need somebody to talk to, we always have a therapist who is available in what we call our drop-in hours. So during our openings, we're open 8 to 6 in the summer, closed on Fridays. So anybody who is on campus who just really needs that connection and really just needs help regulating their emotions, there's always somebody available.
I work in student development as a as a lead mentor, and they can always stop by there, and we'll also guide them in the right direction to go. I'll always tell them to come here. The reason I laugh when I said I'm a lead mentor is because I make movies here, and you know, I can't show these movies at my job. like they're not dirty movies, but they're definitely not for. They're rated R,
right?
Basically,
yeah.
But they did so. I have enjoyed having you guys, because it's about that time.
I appreciate you for allowing us to be here.
Yeah,
no,
this was fun.
Yeah, were y'all nervous?
I think you made it like a lot easier to not be nervous.
We just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I was nervous because I felt like this was super duper like one of the more important shows I did.
Gotcha.
Just because I like to see people healthy. I like to see people open to getting the help that they deserve, you know. And I'm not about to cry. My voice just cracked. I kept saying, like, this will be like my most important show. I have this thing where I don't like writing down anything. I just like to freestyle.
Gotcha.
And
Love that.
see what you say, so I can come back with something. But I appreciate you both for being here, and also I appreciate you for being black and doing what you're doing, because it's just not a space that enough of us are in. It's helping people. Being that I'm a behavioral health tech, I do the same thing. The only thing I do different is I give out meds, but it's them. I don't write scripts, but I have to give out meds, and I've just witnessed a lot of people die. You know, in my field, they check out quick, like fast. They OD, and everybody just deserves to be healthy and get the help they need. And thank you for being black and positive, and being an example. I'm definitely gonna shoot you the information so you guys can share this.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you, because I think one of the things that's important is, even if people don't go to therapy, or we don't get people of color going to therapy, it's the fact that we are spreading awareness, and you are spreading the awareness and getting people like us and people out there that can actually just talk to it, so people can see the difference and see it. You know,
I seen you both up here. Like, I caught you in the hallway one day, and thanks for being polite. You know, 'cause I was like, yo, and I seen you in and out of here. And I was like, I really want to get these black therapists. Yeah. Because, I mean, sorry, Saddleback, because they are black. And maybe somebody will watch this, a young person, and aspire to be more than a rapper or a filmmaker or any of these weird things that are hard to become. Because if you go to school and you do your thing, you could become a therapist. You could have your own practice. You could create your own space, which would make you legit to be on here on Out of Creative. You create your own practice, and you could hire staff, and you can spread awareness and help as many people as possible. So, Justin and Jaylene. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a hard one.
Thank you very much. And y'all made me nervous.
Oh no!
Cause I could just see y'all picking me apart with your therapy eyes looking at me.
Not true. It's just our face at this point.
No, I'm just messing with you. And say, this brother's crazy.
We appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, this is Out of Creative. Peace out. See you next episode. And get some help if you need it.